Shabbat Shalom, welcome back to Take Time for Torah. Parshat Matot-Mas'ei, the last two portions of the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. As we close out this journey into the wilderness, we encounter a section of the Torah which talks about vows. Now the Torah was very, very clear. We should not make vows if we can help it. Our rabbis are even clearer in saying we should avoid at all costs making vows, but there is a way to undo a vow. And in ancient times, as our Torah portion teaches us, women could not make vows alone. Their husbands, their fathers could override those vows, except when they remain silent. As chapter 30, verse 15 teaches us in Bamidbar, but if her husband altogether holds his peace at her from day to day, then he establishes all her vows or all of her bonds, which are upon her. He confirms them because he held his peace at her in that day that he heard them. In other words, he was silent, and therefore his silence connotes agreement. Now this idea is brought out in our Talmud, and the Talmud teaches that silence is considered to be the same as agreement, from Baba Metzia. And that is, if someone makes an agreement and you fail to say anything positive or negative at the time, then under most circumstances the court will assume that you thought well of the agreement and will enforce it. That's fine if you really do agree with the contract. But if you actually disapprove, then you're in trouble and can be held financially responsible for something you did not want in the first place. In a sense, if you do not speak up, if you do not make known your feelings about a particular subject at that time, then you can be held responsible. If we object to something, if we object to a policy or a law, or to the state of our environment, or if we witness oppression upon others, and we should not just sit silently by, because it connotes agreement. According to this law, silence equals agreement. Rather, we have an obligation as Jews to stand up, to speak out against the world's problems. We should speak out against oppression of others. We should speak out against those who want to hurt the needy and the poor and those who are the downtrodden. As we say every morning, we thank God for raising us up and for raising the downtrodden up. We should find a way for us to speak out and to ensure that people are not hurt. Parshat Matot also indicates to us that there's a time limit. It's not okay for us to witness that which is happening and not to say anything later on. In fact, as Megillat Esther for Purim teaches us, when Mordechai was warning Esther about what Haman wanted to do, Mordechai said to Esther, "But if you are silent at this time, you and the house of your father will perish. For you see, if we don't stand up and say something at that moment, in that time, as a way of objecting to that which is being perpetrated against another, then we agree with it. And in that agreement, we may also find ourselves destroyed." You know, there's a very famous quote from the Holocaust in which it talks about the Nazis came for this group and that group and another group, and finally they came for me. And that's what we want to avoid. We need to stand up before we are taken away. We need to stand up before others are hurt and express our concerns and what we will do to help. You know, even in our daily lives, we can find that. You know, we should speak up when one person attacks another or one person acts inappropriately to another. It's our job to stand up and to point that out to others. Do so in a respectful way, but to encourage people to speak respectfully to each other, to help each other with respect, and to care for each other. In doing that, we create a stronger community. We create people who can live together and who will live together for the greater good of our entire community. So this Shabbat, I invite you to reflect on how is it that you can stand up and speak out against the wrongs. For if you sit silently by, then you agree. During World War II, there were many groups who sat silently by as the Nazis destroyed the Jews. We should never let that happen again. Not to the Jewish people, and not to any other race, creed, religion, or human being. Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing you next week as we begin the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. Shabbat Shalom.